Trump is set to meet with NATO allies later this week. In fact, he will be meeting with them tomorrow in order to discuss the future of NATO, and many of our allies are concerned about that because Trump has been incredibly combative and has accused some of our allies of not paying their fair share into the program. So as he has prepared for the Brussels summit or the meeting with NATO allies, Trump has accused Europe of exploiting the United States and hinted that he might play the role of agitator at NATO, sowing disagreement among allies. So
I wonder who that would help.
Well, it's amazing because, like, while he's facing this Russia investigation, regardless of what you believe, Trump's role was in collusion, whether or not you think there's any legitimacy to that investigation, you have to at least admit that Trump constantly, saying positive things about Putin is a bad idea. And in the context of this NATO story, he keeps saying very nice things about Putin. He keeps complimenting him and talking about how it's easier to talk to Putin than it is to talk to NATO allies. Now, I have videos that I want to share with you to prove this point. This is all part of the same press conference. First, let's take a look at what Trump has to say about our NATO allies.
NATO has not treated us fairly, but I think we'll work something out. We pay far too much, and they pay far too little. But we will work it out, and all countries will be happy.
So, all countries will be happy. Oh, good to hear.
He keeps conflating, trade issues with international security issues.
Yeah, and so an expert from Europe said it feels like a mob shakedown. Now, we could give you security if you were to pay the right amount. Right now, but I want to be clear. There's two different issues here. Tying in exactly right what Anna said. Tying in security with the tariffs is a terrible idea. On the other hand, there is one thing he is right about. So the rest of the allies are not putting in what they promised they would put into NATO. So if you wanted to put pressure on them to pay their fair share, I get that, and others might disagree, but I understand that. I would hope that there's a constructive way of doing that. And I know that you would have to do a little bit of stick along with carrots to get them to do that. And then there's a destructive way of doing that. And of course, we present to you Donald Trump, bull in a china shop.
So let me give you the specifics on that, because I agree with you that Trump is right in wanting to hold some of these countries accountable for holding up their promise. Back in 2014, our allied countries said that they would spend about 2% of their gross domestic product for NATO. And that has not happened. So he specifically calls out Germany. Germany promised to do this, and they are not doing it. In fact, the new promise that Germany has made is that they will pay about 1.5% of their gross domestic product into NATO by 2024. So I get it. I understand the frustrations of Trump, and credit where credit is due. However, the way he handles it is so incredibly destructive. A smart negotiator does it in a way that doesn't further alienate the country from our allies. And that's exactly what he's doing. He does it in a very public way. He runs his mouth on Twitter. He runs his mouth in these press conferences. These are your allies, so negotiate with them. If you have friends, just think about it on a small scale where you're having some sort of financial issue with your friends. Your friend promised to pay 50% of the dinner, but didn't end up doing it. Are you gonna go on social media and be like, yo, Rod is not paying me the fair share of that dinner, I can't believe Rod. And then you go and turn around and talk to Rod's enemy, who also happened to be your enemy at some point. You're like, hey, you know what, Stacey? I love you, Stacey. You're so much easier to talk to, Stacey. In a public way, that's what children do. You put Rod aside and you say, hey, come on, we made this promise, let's make it work. Right?
Yeah. But even if you said, no, kick Rod's ass, he owes me the money, I don't care, I'll humiliate him publicly. Congratulations, that's who you are. But anyway, that's fine, okay? But then the extra step is where you can't possibly defend him. So they're saying that he now is considering, they're worried, NATO's worried that he's gonna come in there and go, we should lift the sanctions on Russia for taking Crimea from Ukraine. Well, okay, wait a minute, but that doesn't have anything to do with paying their bills. That's just helping Russia for no reason at all, right? And then he called Putin after his so-called win in the elections where he didn't let his opponents run against him an obvious sham election, every one of his aides that works in a very right-wing White House were like, Mr. President, do not congratulate him on the victory. It was a sham election. So he gets on the phone and he goes, some stupid people told me not to congratulate you. Oh, God.
Yeah, he called Trump, this is in March of this year, and went against his aides, which, okay, fine, but then proceeded to badmouth his aides and call them stupid people while talking to Putin.
So again, it's not even just NATO and it's not for a specific purpose. He even attacks his own friends within his White House, his own staff within the White House, and says, Putin, don't worry. I'm not on the side of my own staff or my own allies. I'm on your side. Congratulations, great job on that election victory. Probably he thinks, hey, can you teach me a lesson or two about how to fix elections?
No, I mean,
can I make sure that none of my opponents run against me like you do, Vladimir?
His aides urged him not to call Putin and congratulate him for getting reelected, right? Because it was a sham election. I mean, for Trump, like, where's the flaw there?
Yeah, he's like, well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Like he said about Kim Jong-un. He says, when he says to do something, his people stand up. I wish they did the same thing here. Well, the way that Kim Jong-un does that is by putting them in concentration camps if they don't stand up.
Don't give him any ideas. Okay, so now in the same press conference, as he is berating our allies, he moves on to Putin. Now, he is going to meet with Putin a few days after the meeting with NATO. And here's what he has to say about his upcoming conversation with Putin.
So I have NATO, I have the UK, which is in somewhat turmoil, and I have Putin. Frankly, Putin may be the easiest of them all. Who would think?
Yeah, what do you mean? You would think. It's been really easy for you to talk to him for all this time that you've been helping him money launder. So super, super easy for you to talk to him. He's your buddy, right? I mean, that's the thing about Trump. No tact, no subtlety, no nuance. He's like, I mean, Putin's easy to talk to. My allies, I want to rip them apart and make sure they can't defend themselves against Putin. But Putin I really like. Oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, you did. You basically did. Right? You said the Putin part, you attacked our allies. If he's not the Siberian candidate, Putin's got to be thinking, how did I get this lucky? An American president who loves me for no reason, wants to lift the sanctions, wants to give me Crimea. They say, oh, they speak Russian anyway, makes my case for me, and rips my enemies to shreds who are supposed to be his allies. If it's not some sort of cooperation, Putin's the luckiest guy in the world. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.